everyone. Welcome to the 2019 SML Grand Showcase. My name is Adia.
And my name is Kaya. We have a series of awesome performances lined up for you to enjoy this afternoon.
We have people from all grades, 6th, 7th, and 8th, that are excited to share their learning experiences through this SML.
The first of these performances are from Ame, a self-proclaimed Club Penguin legend, along with May and Olivia. They're an 8th grade and 6th grade trio who will be singing Lost Boy for us on the guitar and on the piano. Give it up for them.
We sound horrible. Jittery, jittery. Do you start now?
To go and no place to call home. My only friend was a man in the moon. Even sometimes he would go away too. And one night as I closed my eyes, I saw a shadow flying high. He came to me with the sweetest smile. He said, Peter Pan, that's what they call me. Promise that you'll never be lonely. I am a lost boy from Neverland, usually hang out with Peter Pan. And when we bored, we play in the woods, always on the run from Captain Hook. Run, run, lost boy, they say to me, away from all of reality. Neverland is home to lost boys like me. Lost boys like me are free. Neverland is home to lost boys like me. Lost boys like me are free. He sprinkled me in pixie dust and told me to believe. Believe in him and believe in me. Together we'll fly away in a cloud of green. Surrounded by the town that never loved me, I realized I finally had a family. Soon enough we reached Neverland. I am a lost boy from Neverland, usually hang out with Peter Pan. And when we're bored we play in the woods, always on the run from Captain Hook. Run, run, lost boy, they say to me, away from all of reality. Neverland is home to lost boys like me. Lost boys like me are free. Neverland is home to lost boys like me. Lost boys like me are free. Peter Pan, Tinkerbell, Wendy, darling, even Captain Hook, you're my perfect storybook. Neverland, I love you so, now you're my home sweet home, ever a lost boy at last. Wendy, darling, even Captain Hook, you are my perfect storybook. Neverland, I love you so, now you're my home sweet home, ever a lost boy at last. I am a lost boy from Neverland, usually hang out with Peter Pan. And we both we play in the woods, always on the run from Captain Hook. Run, run, lost boy, they say to me, away from all of reality. Neverland is home to lost boys like me, and lost boys like me are free. Neverland is home to lost boys like me, and lost boys like me are free.
Check.
Oh.
Hello? Okay, it's working.
The Unexpected Trio.
My name is Amay Awasti.
My name is Mei Wong.
My name's Olivia Kwan.
Next.
So we're learning how to play the guitar. Our song was Lost Boy, and there's 5 main chords. There's A minor, E minor, C, D, and G. So the whole SML time we were just learning how to strum properly and the finger patterns.
Next slide. Oh, okay. So there were some complications during this SML. So partners was one of the big ones. My original partner was Jack Satterfield, but because of reasons he could not make it today. So for the last few SMLs, I was working alone and I desperately needed a group. Yeah.
So we were all gonna play the guitar originally, but then May was like, "Why don't you play the piano?" And I was confused because my SML was the guitar, not the piano. But then it sounds better instead of just 3 guitars at once. So, yeah.
Time. So around the 5th session, I realized Olivia and I are doing the same song. So we've been practicing till the second to last session when Amay asked if he could join us. So time is rushed, and yeah, we used our time wisely.
Thank you.
My mic wasn't working.
Okay. Wow, that was a beautiful performance. Next up, we have Clara Du, a 7th grader here to show us some of her incredible digital art tools.
Before I start, I have a question to all the artists out there. Do you paint or draw a lot, but always messing up, or just can't find the right brushes to use? My name is Clara, and after you listen to my presentation, you might not have to worry about those things anymore, and you can even help out some unlucky children around the world. My SML has 3 parts to it. The first part is learning how to make Procreate brushes. The second part is learning how to sell them on an online platform, and the third part is how to contribute to the world by doing something I love. So what are Procreate brushes? Procreate is an app designed for iPads and Apple Pencils. Many professional artists use them. So imagine painting on a real canvas. You would need different pencils, paint, brushes, but on Procreate, you can do the same thing, by using digital ones. Although Procreate has default brushes once you purchase the app, but they aren't as useful, so most people just make their own or buy them from brush makers. So you can create unlimited brushes on Procreate, and here are some of the brush basics. So you have a shape source, a grain source, and different settings you have to adjust by yourself. It's pretty confusing for beginners, but once you get the hang of it, it's pretty simple and very fun. So there are so many different effects like watercolor, oil paint, calligraphy brushes, and even really cute stamps. Here are some examples. So as you can see, all the textures and effects are built in, so people won't have to draw the details all by themselves. So after I've made some brushes, my friends were so impressed, and they've been asking me to send the brushes to them. That's when I thought, hey, why don't I sell the brushes? It will be fun. So I found this excellent online platform called Etsy, which most of you probably know. But it's so useful, especially for digital artists, because you can add the attachment to the listing you want to sell, and after people pay, they can instantly download it. I've had my shop up for about a month now, and I've promoted it on my Instagram art account. I'm pretty well known in that community. I've gained around 7,000 followers, and Most people who follow me have Procreate, so they would be interested in buying my brushes. So within a month, I've had more than 200 sales. So you're probably thinking, selling brushes, you can't even make like $100 from doing that. But no, guess how much my revenue is? I've made more than $10,000 just from selling brushes within a month. But why am I trying to make money? I have a plan. I'm sure that everyone who's sitting in here right now is very lucky. But there are children around the world who's suffering from hunger, different kinds of sickness, they have no education, no toys to play with, and I'm very passionate about helping them by donating to UNICEF. So I want to donate to them continuously, so I'm learning to figure out how to donate part of my revenue for every single brush that's been sold. I think this would be a very nice experience for me because I don't have to ask for money from my parents anymore, and I'm doing this all by myself without any help. Today, I've made more than $10,000 within a month. Tomorrow, I do believe I will bring a greater impact to the world by doing something I love. So, I would really appreciate it if you check out my Etsy shop and Instagram account. They're both called Signflakes, and I'd say you can give Procreate a try. Thank you so much, and have a lovely afternoon.
That was so cool.
Hello?
That looked really cool. Next up, we have Caroline Cheng, a 7th grader here to perform her slam poetry piece.
Hi, my name is Caroline Cheng. I'm a 7th grader, and today I'll be talking to you about my SML, which is slam poetry. So what is slam poetry exactly? Well, slam poetry is a form of poetry that focuses on performance, competition, of course the words, and also the audience participating. So you might think, what do I mean by audience participation? Well, as a slam poet, you want to get a reaction out of the audience, so you can know that you've truly captivated the audience. So when I'm performing my poem, feel free to laugh or cry or clap or do all those things. And wait, go back. And you might be thinking, why did I choose slam poetry? Well, poetry has always been something that I've been really passionate about, but ever since I've discovered what slam poetry is, I've realized that I can move people with words, and that's exactly what I want to accomplish. Next. So my process included figuring out my goal, what I wanted to achieve. I thought about So my final goal was to use hand gestures, facial expressions, but also to captivate the audience with my poem. And at first I started with brainstorming topics, but at the end I decided on one topic that was really authentic to me, and that was my relationship with my dad. And some challenges included time. I had to think about what were all the important pieces of my poem and how I could perform them under time, and how I wanted to perform them, because if you look at it, each slam poet you watch, they all have a different quality that makes them unique, and I had to figure out my quality. Next. So without further ado, I'd like to perform an excerpt from my slam poem, A Text Message to Dad That Never Sent. Oh. Hi, Dad. I don't know what to think right now. I do miss you, and I hope you're okay, but part of me can't ignore the times you got mad. Real mad. The times when I've heard you paint skin with bruises and red marks coming from the other room, an 8-year-old feeling so small in a world full of tall adults and loud voices and heavy emotions and heavy tears, where everything is just too heavy. Part of me can't ignore your bloodshot eyes, your steady yet choked out tone, your shaking fist gripping a ruler I dreaded my whole life as you said, I don't want to do it. But it's the right thing to do. I didn't have a choice. But Dad, you did have a choice. And because of those bad days, I grew up thinking it was normal for parents to hit kids who were still learning two-digit multiplication, thinking it was normal that all moms and dads spent nights at dinner tables in silence, thinking it was normal for a girl to grow up resenting her dad but also love him at the same time. And it's easy for me to resent him still, but he's my dad. He's still the one who always tried to find spare change so I could get that ice cream. He's still the one who always gave me the bigger piece. And one, he is not my hero. That title belongs to my mom. She's sticking through everything, and she's sticking it out now. And two, he's still my dad. And the good things, they don't make this any better, but it can't erase the fact that he's my dad. And three, I know he's trying. Four, I know he's trying. Five, I know he's trying. And that's the real truth, ladies and gentlemen. But real truth hurts. And my old man is getting older by the minute. Maybe he's changed all those months away from home. I can only hope. But for now, my real truth is being tucked away in a Happy Father's Day mug and placed carefully into a glass cabinet where I'll sing it to sleep and cradle it tight in my mind. My real truth is being concealed letter by letter as I keep my thumb on the delete key. Thank you.
That was a really powerful performance. Next, we have Gabby Cow, a 7th grader who is passionate about science and will be sharing what she learned about Claire Cameron Patterson, who is an American geochemist.
My SML project is about a scientist who improved the lives of every single person on Earth, but whom almost nobody knows about. Claire Cameron Patterson was an American geochemist who, at the University of Chicago, in 1948, he started working on a project to calculate the age of the Earth using a substance called zircon. Zircon is found in common igneous rocks, which scientists knew were formed about the same time as the Earth. If you could figure out how old the zircon crystals were, you could figure out how old the Earth was. But how do you do that? Patterson set out to use a phenomenon called radioactive decay. What is radioactive decay? As you know, everything in the universe is comprised of atoms. At the center of each atom is the nucleus, which is also comprised of neutrons and protons. As you can see on the periodic table, all elements in nature are identified by their atomic number, the number of protons. Some elements, especially radioactive ones, have different isotopes. Isotopes are different versions of the same element, but with different numbers of neutrons. Next. Radioactive elements naturally change over time from one isotope to another, and sometimes into a completely different element by losing protons and neutrons and radiating energy. This is called radioactive decay. What's interesting about radioactive decay is something called half-life. Half-life is the amount of time it takes from an element or an isotope to decay into another isotope. For example, the decay of uranium-235 to lead-207 has a half-life of 710 million years. So if you start with 1 million atoms of uranium, then you'll have, after 710 million years, you'll have 500,000. Then after another 710 million years, you have 250,000. Back to zircon and Claire Patterson. He knew that when zircon was created, there was a certain amount of uranium-235 that got trapped in the zircon, but no lead. He also knew the half-life of uranium-235 to lead-207. So if you could measure how much lead and uranium remained in the zircon, he could work out how old the zircon was and therefore the age of the Earth. As you can imagine, measuring these tiny amounts of uranium in tiny bits of zircon requires extremely delicate measurements and instruments. However, every time Patterson finished calculating his results, the amount of lead was always far too high than could be explained naturally. He deduced that this extra lead must be coming from the air, and so to prevent contamination, he created the world's first clean lab. After 7 years of work, he finally calculated the age of the Earth, 4.55 billion years, a figure that scientists still use 60 years later. But his work was not yet finished because he was curious about why there was so much lead in the air contaminating his measurements. Back in the 1920s, car companies started adding lead to gasoline to stop engines from shaking around. The problem with this is that millions of lead and tons of lead ended up in the atmosphere and then into the lungs of adults and children. Lead is a very dangerous neurotoxin and can cause lower IQs, a shrunken prefrontal cortex, and a loss of impulse and motor controls. This can cause seizures, hallucinations, and people to die painful deaths. However, the car and gasoline industry was making too much money, and executives would deny that this was a problem. Patterson suspected that atmospheric lead was caused by the leaded gasoline and set out to prove this. To do this, he analyzed the ice cores from glaciers of Greenland and for their amounts of lead. Each year, glaciers form ice layers, like tree rings. Each layer is a record of the amount of lead in that year. Using these ice core samples, Patterson measured how much lead in the atmosphere changed year by year. Lo and behold, his data showed that lead levels did indeed spike in 1923 when lead gasoline was first commercialized. After discovering this, So that's the story of leaded. Despite all the car companies and petroleum institutes fighting against him, the United States passed the Clean Air Act to control air pollution. Many countries around the world followed suit. Leaded gasoline was finally banned in 1986, and almost immediately, the amount of lead in people's bloodstreams dropped by over 80%. So that's the story of Claire Patterson, the scientist who started in his laboratory at University of Chicago, calculated the age of the Earth, and went to the glaciers of Greenland, and finally to Washington, D.C., where he helped save and improve lives all across the world. Just like how Patterson started working on the age of the Earth but ending up studying lead, my research went off in a strange direction as well. This reminds us all that science isn't just about solving the problems we know about, but it's also about finding problems we didn't even know exist. Thank you.
That was a really informative presentation. Well done. Next, we have Zachary from 7th grade. He will be showing us a really cool live card trick to show his mastery of illusion.
During SML, I learned that you don't need huge props to put on a good show. I learned that all you need is a deck of cards and a few slips of paper. I also learned illusion and sleight of hand. Illusion is directing the viewer's attention to something else while you do something else. Sleight of hand is doing something so fast the spectator can't see it. But for me to perform this trick, I need somebody from the audience. But to do this, I have 4 slips of paper. They're in the box over there. So each slip of paper has a name of one of my core teachers. So I'm just going to go over there and I'm going to pick a piece out of there. Pick. Mr. Kerner, can you please come out on stage? All right, here, can you join me over here? So right here, I have a deck of cards. Can you shuffle it up to make sure there's no setup?
Shuffle them up?
Yep, shuffle them up.
I don't know how to shuffle.
It's okay, just any shuffle. Just do your best. Happy? All right, cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a little shuffle as well. Now, I'm going to go through the deck, I'm going to make a prediction. I'm going to put it face down right here. This is my prediction. I'm going to put it right here and make sure I don't touch it. Now, I'm going to start putting the cards face up like this. You can say stop whenever you want.
Stop.
Stop. Can you straighten that deck out and flip it over? All right. Now I'm going to riffle through this deck. You can say stop whenever you want.
Stop.
Stop. The top card on that deck is the 3 of spades. Now, we're not worried about the spades. We're only worried about the 3. Can you take 3 cards off the top of the deck?
Do you want to see them?
Doesn't matter. Either one. Can you flip that top card over? The 3rd card is the Queen of Clubs. Now, for you to understand something before we reveal the card, there are things called soulmate. For example, 4 clubs, 4 spades, same number, same color. Now, can you flip over my prediction? I haven't touched it this whole time.
Okay.
Flip it. Queen of spades.
Whoa. Am I done?
Yep, you're done. Thank you.
Oh my god, that was amazing.
Thank you.
All right, cool.
So now, what do you think? Sleight of hand or illusion? Thank you.
Okay. Shh, guys. Okay. That was quite a mystifying performance, Zach. Next up, we have Marcus from the 8th grade. For SML, he has set the task for himself to learn Cantonese, and here's how his project went.
Hi everyone, Neho. No, hi Marcus. Hi everyone, I'm Marcus and this is my present SML on Cantonese. Okay. Okay. So I want to give you a few numbers to start. Here, let's start with the first one. 97%. This applies to me directly because, or all of us actually, because we all speak English. But 97% is the percent of 2011 Hong Kong residents that have learned to speak Cantonese. And I'm part of this 3% that can't speak Cantonese, and I'm really missing out. So let's go on to the next one. So the next number I have to give you is 3.2%. This is the number of 2011 Hong Kong residents that speak English as their first language. Surprising? Well, we're all part of this 3.2%, and I would guess that only half of us can speak Cantonese. One more. I have one more to give you. 10%. This would make my project seem really easy, but 10% of all Cantonese was translated directly from English. So, was it easy? Well, I've been speaking Chinese since I was a kid, since I was born, and Chinese and Cantonese are really similar in the way that makes my project so much harder. Chinese is nice and slow, like if I'd say ni hao, it's really long and elongated, but Cantonese is far more sharp and violent, like zhou san. Also, Chinese has 4 tones, and Cantonese has an additional 2 with 6 tones. So what I could do initially was I could really just count 1 to 10. I could say zhou san or hello, and I had no idea that there were 6 whole pronunciations that I'd have to learn. Along the way, around my 3rd or 4th SML session, I found out that there was so much to learn that there was no way I was going to learn all of it in 12 SML sessions. So I figured I may as well just learn a few specific phrases that I could use that would be really useful and common. So I learned a few specific phrases such as, to start greetings. If I was really informal, I could just say hello, which is a word translated directly from English. But I could also say neho, or even neho ma, which is asking how you're doing or how are you. And something else you would also hear from a lot of Cantonese people are why, like when they're on the phone, why. So you guys know. I also learned if I wanted to ask someone where to go, I could say 你知唔知用去那个地方 or 地方 in Chinese. So if I wanted to ask, how do I get to your house, I could say 你知唔知用去你 okay? I think that's how you do it. Or another way I could say it is 你 okay 海邊, which is just asking where blank is. So I could say, if I'm asking for the toilet, I could say 你廁所海邊. And after I could follow up with 看唔看, which is just asking if wherever it's close. One more. And when I'm walking to your place or your house, I could even ask 君走 or 君搖, which is turning left or right. And that is my presentation on Cantonese and my SML. Thank you.
Can I have your attention, please? Shh. Quiet down.
It was really interesting hearing about your learning experience, Marcus. Next, we have the legendary songwriter, Ryan Loebner, from 8th grade, who made an album all about his experiences and trains.
Can we get the... Howdy there, folks. I'm Ryan Loebner, and today I'm going to be presenting the best SML presentation you'll see today. Well, in my opinion, at least. Today, I'm going to be presenting on my quest for making a bop. But you might be wondering, Ryan, what is a bop? Well, a bop is a brilliant original piece of music. Well, that would make it bop-em now, wouldn't it? I guess the OM is silent. So what makes a good bop, you might be wondering? Well, there's a multitude of things. Firstly, you gotta have perseverance, because let's be real here. You're not going to be turning out a song in like an hour. That's just unrealistic. You also are going to need a good theme for it. Because all good albums have a theme. For example, the album in which the hit Owl City song Fireflies in had a theme of night, or midnight, or something along, twilight, stuff like that. Mystical stuff, that kind of jazz. You also need a good rhythm. But let's not forget a rhyme. Come on, lads, it's bobsled time. No, that's the wrong film. But you need a good rhythm and a good rhyme. Because what's a song without the rhymes now, isn't it? You also need awesome cover art. Because what's a song without cover art? That goes for more or less an album. It goes more or less for everything, but you need good cover art. And last but certainly not least, let us not forget the importance of a good singing voice. Because who wants to hear a song with a completely bad singing voice? The bop I'm going to be giving a live performance of is a song called Tourist Railroad of Tears. This song is essentially about a tourist railroad. It's based off of my 8th grade career here. It's based off life in general. It's based about trains. Well, of course it's based about trains. It's me. It's also inspired off of the Gettysburg Railroad, which is a railroad known for its completely bad maintenance. In fact, it was because of that a locomotive's firebox exploded and the crew were almost killed. Now, next slide, please. I will now be giving a live, short 1 minute, 2 minute-ish thing of it. Here we are. Cause I'm on a clap out, overused, under-maintained tourist railroad, sitting next to some old H&D-sold alcoves. Oh yeah, I don't go anywhere, no cares in the world. Oh yeah, cause I'm on a clap out, overused, under-maintained tourist railroad. I was built by Baldwin in the year of 1920. 24. Oh yeah, I worked the core of the railroad up until the F units came, extinguished my flame. Sitting on display ain't the way of the machine that fuels your dreams. Oh yeah, 'cause I'm on a clapped out, overused, under-maintained tourist railroad. Cut it, please, thank you. I'm Ryan Loebner, and thank you for listening. Ciao!
Wow, that was quite an entertaining show, Ryan. Now we have Lauren Niam, a 7th grader who has created a super interesting art exploration.
Stand up here and okay. So I'm actually 6th grade. Hi, my name is Lauren. I'm doing art for SML this year. Next. So in the start, I only decided to do watercolor, but during the process, I also explored other kinds of art. For example, oil pastel, sketching, and acrylic. So starting off with watercolor, my first drawing in this SML is that one up there, and I made a humongous mistake, which is I used the wrong paper. So even if I wanted to, the water couldn't spread. So after I did a lot of research and inspiration from professional artists, and this is my result. So can we press time lapse? Sad. So that is watercolor. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, the next one is sketch. Sketching is one of the most familiar arts that I have, and it started last year where I started drawing portrait with sketching, which is the girl up there. So this year I decided to challenge myself and draw something harder, like an old man, as you can see down there. So I saw many professional artists. They have really quick and bold strokes, and they finish an art piece under 5 minutes. So I went a little bit longer with 10 minutes, and this is what I did. So, oil pastel. That is Mr. Edwards, and I'm really sorry, Mr. Edwards, that doesn't look like you. But, so I had a box of oil pastel last year, and that was one of my first drawings with the person with the 70 on their glasses. So I decided to show that because now that I had more research, I found that the oil pastel, the colors are supposed to be more full. But this isn't really how you're supposed to draw oil pastel, but I decided to stick with my own style, and I drew Mr. Edwards like that. Sorry. So acrylic was my final project, and I drew Miss Graywall. I went through many obstacles, and one of the largest obstacles was her eyes. So her eyes were really hard to draw, and I drew this like in the last week of SML, and well, not SML, like after SML. And I had a really hard time with the eyes, and I almost wanted to give up, but My mom encouraged me through the process, and I thought it would be really weird that Miss Graywell gave me some photos and I never drew anything in the end. So I kept on going, and this is my ending result. Well, can you play the, yeah. So what I learned that each different kind of art is really unique, such as I drew Mr. Edwards for oil pastel and Miss Graywell for acrylic. This has to do with really the personalities, which is why I like to draw portrait. As you can see, Mr. Edwards is more of a comedian, while Miss Graywell is more subtle. So I decided to draw oil pastel for Mr. Edwards and acrylic for Miss Graywell. And I think that I learned that I really like to draw portrait because it is much more interesting than drawing some still object, because you can really apply the personality into the style of the drawing. So this process helped me become a better artist because I can now draw other styles of art such as watercolor and acrylic, which is something I would normally not use to draw, and it really expanded my love for art. Thank you. All right.
Wow, what a captivating project. Now we have Will, an 8th grader, who will be showing us how he created a story universe and how to write fantasy novels.
So, hello there. Unfortunately, Will was not able to make it, but he asked me to fill in for him. And I figured it was the least I could do considering how he created me and my entire world. Now, the first thing we're going to talk about here is his goal. So, his SML goal was to build a complete world, which he didn't get to do, but he got most of it, that he could write stories in and play something called Dungeons and Dragons. I don't really know what that is. Sounds kind of fun. Now, he did face some obstacles, mainly writer's block. Deadliest thing you can face on the planet, let me tell you that right now. Now then, the first thing we're going to start off with is the cities, and I thought what better thing to start off with than... Oh wait, no, that's not right. This is the world, and just a quick brief overview. In this world, nothing of the typical fantasy nature happens. So basically, the good guys don't always win. Now, let's actually get to the cities. The first one being Flanders. So, Flanders is the city of the elves. Quite a beautiful city, actually. There is a bit of a darker side to it. That being, it is the main producer of a quite nasty narcotic called Norma. What happens with Norma is you take it, you experience bliss for 2 hours, maybe, and then you go clinically insane and start caring less about your well-being. The next city we have up is Bestrom. Now, Bestrom is the city of the dwarves. The lead producers of magical artifacts, weapons, and technological advancements. And there's also, I don't know why the painter didn't include a gemstone castle in this one, but that is the main reason that people go to Bestrom when they are dwarves. And the next city, well, I didn't know I'd be talking about this one. I'm not actually going to talk about this. I'm going to read you something. I still hear them. Outside the door, still there. Can't get out, the city's always changing. Can't stay in, because the things inside are never the same. Now, Othello is a beastly city that I will not be talking about much longer. All I can say is that it was corrupted by some nasty beings. Now, up next we have the races. Now, this is a very brief introduction to most of the common races, not including humans, because as we all know, all of us are human, don't really need to go over what they are. So, we have, first up, the elves. Now, the elves are the most aloof of the races. They consider themselves to be the closest to magic and the gods. And while the magic part may be true, not so much the gods. That goes more to the dragons and the angels of our world. Second up, we have the dwarves. If you want something done quickly and efficiently, you go to them. If you want something done prettily, you go to the elves. These guys can do literally anything if they pound at rock hard enough. And I'm not making that up. They could create this cloak out of rock and still have it be as flexible. Right, next up, we have the moles. Now, these ones are basically what you would call halflings. But they're called moles here because they're so sneaky, they're used as spies, and most organizations have a mole. Next up, we have... How did that get there? Oh, well, never mind. I guess I couldn't avoid talking about them. These are the bad guys. They are the primary corruptors of Othello, and if you want to die, you could start learning about them. Let's talk about something else. Well, we go from that to this. Dragons are the flip side of the coin, created by the new gods and sometimes worshipped as the new gods don't really show up a lot. I mean, there's the clerics, but they're becoming less and less effective. Well, I suppose that'll be all for me then. I just got to leave you with the end. For now.
Ooh, hello. Hello. What an intriguing writing presentation. Now we have Annalise, a 7th grader who will share her experience selling sheet music and producing a music video.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Annalise Mack, and today I will be sharing with you my 2019 SML project. Next. So this year for my project, I decided to compose 2 scores of sheet music, one for an ensemble trio and one just for a solo piano. And I recorded and filmed this, my music to make a music video, and I published my sheet music online. So why did I choose my topic? Next. So last year for my SML, I created an album and I uploaded it to Spotify and Apple Music. Next. Okay. So this reached 6 continents and 34 countries, which you can see up there. So this year I wanted to try something new. I wanted to try something which incorporated elements of collaboration, creativity, and resilience. Therefore, I decided to create an ensemble score, which was different because in the past I've only done things for a solo person or a solo piano, but now I had to try to incorporate everything and try to bring out the melodies, which was quite new for me. So this was my process. So first I needed to compose my sheet music. I then filmed my music video after I finished. I edited my music video, and then I needed to publish my sheet music. This is where I encountered a really big problem. So originally, I wanted an automated delivery so that all of my customers could automatically be delivered the PDF files instead of me having to individually send it to everyone. However, I eventually abandoned this idea because in order to do so, I first needed to create a bank account or have a business account on PayPal, which would, for the bank account, it would cause a lot of logistical problems. And for the PayPal account, if I wanted to create a business account, it would need a lot of money, which was around $12,000, and I wasn't going to spend that money. So instead, I created a domain website where I uploaded all of my files and inserted a PayPal button. So with my domain website, I needed to create it using money, and I used the revenue from my last year's SML project to set up the website. So this was my final product. So this was the music video I created. So that was only a small excerpt out of everything that I wrote so far. So this was my sheet music for my ensemble trio, which is now on my website. And, and this is my solo sheet music, which I am also selling on that same website. So this was my first customer, and this is just a PayPal receipt that I got, and they bought my solo sheet music. So I uploaded everything to my website this Thursday, so I already got one customer so far. As you can see, this customer comes all the way from New Zealand, which, that's just an example of how sometimes people from all over the world can listen to my music and how more people can maybe have access to my music. And if they want, they can share it with other people, which is why I wrote the ensemble sheet music. So thank you for listening to my presentation.
What an intriguing... Looks like a songwriter and music director in the making. Next we have Leo Wang, a 7th grader who has somehow built a smartwatch. I know, crazy, right? Let's see how he did it.
Hello everyone. For my SML project, I decided to make a smartwatch. Next slide. So, what inspired me to make a smartwatch? Well, I was first inspired to make a smartwatch when Apple first released its own Apple Watch. When I looked at the Apple Watch, I was just amazed by how they fit all of those features in such a small body. From the first release of the Apple Watch, I've always wanted to make a smartwatch for myself. And when SML came, it gave me a perfect opportunity to pursue this project. Next slide. So, how did I plan to make a smartwatch? Well, immediately, I knew that I'm not an owner of a multi-$100 billion company, And I don't have programmers and engineers all over the world to work on this project. So with the limited time and just myself, I knew that I was just going to make a regular kind of smartwatch that hopefully works. So to make a smartwatch, I knew that it needed to be light and portable. So I decided to use a printed circuit board, also known as a PCB. My reason for using a printed circuit board is because printed circuit boards are super small and compact, which is perfect if you want to make a smartwatch, since smartwatches require you to fit all of those technologies on a wrist. Yes. So once I ordered my PCBs, I had to minimize the number of electronics physically. I knew that I was going to try to make everything cloud-based, instead of buying physical electronics, which could be clunky and heavy to use. So I used Wi-Fi modules, which can control input and output devices, as well as connect to the internet, where I use time servers from the internet and other databases to receive time and date for my watch. I think what makes this watch unique is how everything is based on the cloud, and there's actually very few physical things on the watch. So after finishing with designing the circuits and actually building it, it was time to program the watch. And that's where I met my biggest challenge. The challenge was that many of my sources of time and date could not be compatible with the watch. And some servers were shut down for public use. So from hours of trying to find available databases and programming, I concluded that I need to remake the watch and find another method that can receive time and date information. Next slide. So when remaking the watch, in order to prevent me from running into some complicated problems I ran in when making the first watch, I thought about using a phone. Your phone has all of the technology the watch needed. It can read the time, read the date, and can also send messages. So why rebuild all what a phone can do when you already have one in your pocket? So how the second watch is supposed to work is that the watch will be minimal and use very few parts, because most of the information is received from the phone. In the end, all the watch physically need is a display screen, a Bluetooth module that connects to the phone and receives information for the watch, and a microcontroller which can control input and outputs. But however, due to the lack of time and budget, I was only able to build a prototype of the watch, which is still really big. However, it works. So right now I can show you a demonstration of the watch. So as you can see, this is my first watch. Here's a Wi-Fi module which connects to all of the servers to receive time and date information, but it doesn't work. But now here's my second watch prototype. As you can see, the time right now is 2:53 p.m. And here's my phone, which is already connected to the watch. So in the future, I would probably be making sure that the microcontrollers and the breadboard, I will probably be finding smaller alternatives for the microcontroller, and I will be probably also be finding smaller alternatives for the Bluetooth module. And not only can the watch show the date and time, it can also receive other information too. Since it's connected to the phone, it can also notify you whenever you get a text message or whenever someone is calling you. Thank you for listening to my SML, and I hope you enjoyed it.
What a fascinating topic, Leo. Now we have Sasha, a 7th grader who will show us her amazing piano skills that she learned during this year's SML.
Hi everybody, this is my SML presentation, which is playing the piano. Like they said, my name is Sasha DeSalvo, and I've decided to play game music, and you might recognize the game. It's Legend of Zelda game music, and I decided to take that music and form a medley. I started already wanting to do Legend of Zelda music, plus already doing the piano. And also my family encouraged me, especially my sister. She got me started on learning one of the songs. So the main obstacle was hand coordination on the piano, because I did piano for around 5 years, but it was not consistent since I started at 4 years old and ended at 9 years old. And I kind of forgot everything I learned, so I didn't know how to coordinate my hands really well. And also I faced trying to record, since I lived in a very noisy environment. My family would make tons of noise and I couldn't record correctly, and I had to record at night, but I would be really tired and stuff. So in my SML, I learned that piano takes time to learn. SML time for piano is not enough time to learn, because especially a hard song, it was really difficult for me. And also, you can modify SML to make it doable for you. Like for me, I modified my SML a lot, since I started out doing a really complicated song and I didn't have enough time. So I cut the song down short a bit, so then I would be capable of doing it. Also, your SML may not always go the same way you want it. I started out wanting to do cello and piano, but then I ended up doing just piano in a completely different song. And then here's my SML video. Uh, Thank you for listening to my SML presentation, and I would really recommend to go play Legend of Zelda. It's a great game, and you might recognize some of the songs. Yeah.
Wow, that was some. Okay. Wow, that was some serious musical talent. Last but not least, we have Lauren Sue, a 7th grader showing us her exploration on DNA and her own family tree.
Who do you think you are? People derive their sense of identity from their family. But do we really know who's in our family and where our family is from? My name is Lauren, and my SML was based off of the TV show Who Do You Think You Are, where celebrities traced their ancestry and found lost relatives. My inspiration came when I heard my mom talking with my grandmother about how her mother's father had spent 40 years of his life in a place that sounded somewhat like HKIS, but only with a really heavy Guangdong village dialect accent. For years, nobody knew where this place was, until one day, my mom was talking with her South American Dutch friend, and that friend said, "Oh, Guayaquil, I know where that place is. It's in Ecuador." So through that one conversation, a 4-generational mystery was solved. I was intrigued about how I could potentially have relatives in Ecuador that looked nothing like me, so I set out to find them. So I asked my grandmother to do a 23andMe DNA test, and when the results came back, she had over 950 third to fifth cousins. I sifted through pretty much all of them, and I narrowed it down to 4 matches. These people had Ecuadorian and Chinese ancestry. I wasn't sure if it was safe to contact them, so I did some snooping, and through social media and background checking sites, I found information about where they lived, the types of cars they drove, their social media footprint, any criminal records, and their friends and family's social media footprint. All these people seemed pretty safe, so I sent them messages through 23andMe, and I got 1 reply back. The reply I got back was from a woman named Maria, who's in her 50s, and she lives in the US. She told me that her great-grandfather and grandfather were Chinese, and her great-grandfather's name was Lam Mao Yim. Lam is my great-grandfather's last name, not my great-grandmother's. So I discovered that my great-grandfather also had relatives that went to Ecuador. But apart from that, Maria did not know much about her family. So using ancestry sites like FamilySearch.org and MyHeritage, I dug out information about our families. I discovered that Maria's great-grandfather's Spanish name was Santiago Mayan, and his Spanish last name Mayan was created through combining his 2 Chinese first names, Mao and Yim. So these are photos of the Mayans. On the left is Santiago Mayan, and next to him is his wife, and then the other 2 people are Maria's granduncles. So through the information that I found, I constructed a family tree. Maria and my grandmother should be about 4th to 5th cousins, which means that their great-grandfathers were brothers. So from this project, I learned about DNA and DNA testing. So what 23andMe does is they get your saliva sample, and within your saliva are cells which have DNA in them, and they compare that DNA to other people's DNA to see if you guys are related. I also learned about Chinese migration in the 1900s. So this is an image of a Chinese-owned store in the US. And I imagine this is what my great-great-grandfather and Santiago Mayan's businesses would have looked like. I also learned about why so many Chinese people went to South America. It's because they went over to work on plantations and work on the railroads. And then after that, they would go on to provide services for the Chinese community. My great-great-grandfather probably went over to Ecuador to start a business for the booming Chinese community at the time. But most of all, I learned that if you are walking down a street similar to this one, literally anyone could be your family, no matter their ethnicity. We shouldn't be discriminating in the first place, but now there's a more personal reason, because anyone could be your family. Thank you.
All right. We on? Thank you. Obviously, we just heard the dismissal bell, so we'll get out of here in just a sec. And I don't have time for all the thank yous I want to give, but I do want to give a round of applause to all of our presenters today. Thank you so much. A great job. My apologies to the first group. The sound wasn't quite where we wanted it to be, but we appreciate your patience. And another special thank you to the TechnoWise group behind the scenes. Awesome work with Mr. Lee. Thank you so much. With that, we're going to